Okay, so my name is Bikash Joshi, and I'm a design lead and product manager at Geo. You can connect me via these channels, via this social channels. You can also connect me in via my email. I'm mostly active in LinkedIn, so you can find me there, and you can see a lot of posts which I do, informative posts there. Uh, yeah, so be mindful about connecting. Yeah, that's what I want to say about it. Do not bombard with a lot of questions. Right, I also have to do my work. I definitely appreciate mentoring people, and you can find me in adapt list also if you want to get mentored yourself. Okay, so primary questions to everybody, right? We have 100 plus people who has joined us. Why this webinar, right? Why we decided to have this webinar? So let me tell you a story about this. Recently we were hiring some designers, and while hiring, in the process, we realized that there are two important things which the aspirant UX designer and the freshers were missing out. Right? I realized that there are two main problems of people being not selected for interviews, or not selected for the job. One is what I realize is the lack of confidence. I'll talk about more about this. So lack of confidence in the sense they know the process, right? They know what they're in the theory, but they're not able to practically apply that into certain scenarios. That's one problem, right? So when the hiring manager asks them some questions about the same theoric part, they are not able to answer it. And I believe the main reason for this is the lack of understanding of the very basic, the foundation of UX design. That's the problem. That's where I understand, okay, that's the problem there. The second problem is, as soon as somebody lands into UX industry or UX field, started learning about UX, they get bombarded with a lot of this UI versus UX debate. Right? I can see one of the questions also asking, what is the difference between UI and UX, right? And because of that bombardness, they get involved into this discussion of UI versus UX, and they lose track. I think this is the two most important problem, and this is what I'm going to talk about. This is what I'm going to explain, or I'm going to discuss about in this webinar. So outcome of this presentation would be, you will have a clear understanding of what UX is, what UI is, and how you will gain confidence, or how you will be confident that I know what UX is, what is design altogether is. Awesome. So with that, I'll take it forward from here. Disclaimer, this is very important, right? The views and opinions I'm going to present today are entirely of my own, and it is no way present the view, position, or opinion expressed or implied of my current or previous organization. So whatever I'm going to talk about today, what I'm going to explain today, is my opinion. This is my views. It's not related to my organization. Okay, so you have read this subject a lot of time, right? You have read it in your email, while signing up in Zoom also, you have read this, how to apply theoretical knowledge while working practically in UX industry. Theory knowledge, I said theory is, about theory, but because of the lack of confidence, you're not able to practically apply that in the industry, in the UX. That's what the topic is. You know the theory, but because of the lack of confidence, you're not able to practically apply it into your design process. That's the topic. That's what I'm going to explain today. Awesome. So before we start learning about new thing, there's one thing which we have to do every time, right? We have to unlearn everything. You have to just forget everything what you have learned, right? Think like you are in a nursery class, right? You are blank slate. You don't have anything in your brain. Remove everything, whatever UI UX thing in your brain is, remove everything, right? Come with a blank slate. And with a blank slate, think about this. Who do you think is the greatest designer ever? Who do you think is the greatest designer ever? I'll give you 5 seconds to think about it. Think about it. Come up with a name in your mind. Okay. Many people might have thought Steve Jobs, might have, got a name of Donald Norman also, right? Well, the answer I believe, because I'm spiritual. So I think the biggest designer ever is the God himself, right? And if you are not so spiritual, think about the nature. The God or nature are the biggest designer ever. See, I'm going towards philosophy now. I'm trying to make you understand what design means, right? And then we will talk about UI, UX, and all other stuffs. Okay, so let's try to understand what design is all about first. So from my perspective, it is God who is the biggest designer ever, right? Just think about ourselves. Think about the universe we live in. Think about the planet we live in. It is so perfectly designed that you never felt missing anything. Think about our ears, think about our eyes, right? Think about our nose, how beautifully this feature has been developed, right? You ask any people, anyone in this world, do you want to die? He will say, no, I don't want to die. Why? Because he's enjoying this feature. And that's what we have to bring in the product. People should love the product, and they will say, I don't want to leave this product. I want to be with this product ever and ever again. How do you build that? That's by creating features which people love, right? Think about it. Think about this whole universe being designed by God or by nature, right? Open your mind, clear everything out. Think about this. This is the experience which God or nature has created for us. We don't want to leave this world altogether. Cool. Let's move on. I love memes. Okay. I'll come to agenda later, but I love memes. If somebody follows me on LinkedIn, you will see I post a lot of memes also. But memes have a lot of hidden meaning inside it. Okay. One is the very famous one. Okay. On the left hand side, you can see what stakeholders see, right? They have bought, so we have mother and father here, and we have a kid, who's sleeping. And mother or father bought some toys. And mother and father says, it's beautiful, I love it, right? They never have thought about the user. I mean, the kid, right? What the kid says, this is a bump. The father and mother, they are the stakeholders. They love it. They said, okay, let's build this feature. Let's build this feature, but they have not thought about the user. What user sees is this, all the bumps, not the beautiful faces or funny faces of those tigers or piggy or the elephant, right? And the most debatable thing, right? What I design as a mustache and what developer build is this. My God, right? You see, this problem happens every day. Every day this problem happens, right? Why does this problem happens? On the left hand side, this has happened is because we don't have a proper understanding about our user needs and goals. And we create feature products or whatever we do as per our intuition. And that's problem arise. And that's the problem which we see. Users just see the bump. And this on the right hand side, why does this happens? It's because the entire team, the product team. So the product team consists of designers, product managers, developers, analytics, a lot of other people. They don't have a shared understanding about the user. This is the problem. All right. So these two memes give you a lot of information about what UX is all about. Awesome. So now we have come to the agenda of this webinar. Before this, the slide, whatever I've talked about is to just open up your mind. So I talked about the greatest designer. I talked about the UX thing a bit, but I'll go in depth about it. Here's the agenda of the webinar today. So we are going to burst some design myth, right? Then we'll talk about what exactly is design. Then we'll talk about what is UX design. Then we'll also talk about what is UI design. Then the most voted topic, I posted a poll in LinkedIn to understand what is the most difficult part being a UX designer, and most of them voted for UX research, and there I have put the user research also in the list. And then on the sixth item, we'll talk about the outcomes. You are a designer, right? What are the outcomes you should look after, whenever you are working on a project? And then the most important part, number 7, how to get a job in UX as a fresher. I think everybody will look for this, right? I'm going to share some of the tips and tricks which will help you land into UX industry. And then we'll open up this for the questions and answers. All right, let's start with bursting some design myth. I'm going to burst it hard, okay? So keep your ears. Myth number 1, UX is equal to UI. And the answer is no, UX is not equal to UI. Okay. UX and UI are not two different things. They are not two different things. They are not even equal. They are not equal. This is how it is. The UI is a subset of UX. UX is a bigger picture and UI is one part of it. UI is one part. There are other parts of UX as well. Some of them are information architecture, research, and interaction design. These are some part. There are some more, but I'm just giving you a glimpse of it. So UX more than UX, the UI. It is not equal to UI. Okay. Design myth number 2, design is an art. Right? A lot of people say, "Arey, you are a designer, you must be an artist, right?" So design is not only art. Design is more than an art. Okay. Design is some part of design is science, some part is psychology, some part is philosophy, and many other subjects club together becomes design. Right? Science, because we have to verify every aspect of it. Psychology, we have to understand human being so that we can design better for them. Philosophy, the one which I have gave you about it, who is the greatest designer ever? That is philosophy, right? So design is not only art. Okay. Learn tool to become a designer. This is one of the worst one. Okay. And I highly tell everyone who want to become a designer to just get away with this. Don't think about tool every now and then. Okay. Tool are a medium through which we can design, but tool are not the only requirement to become a designer. And furthermore, designing tools comes last in the design process. Okay. If you see, I am going to show you a design process. It's a design thinking process. And you will see where this exactly the designing learning tools comes into. So by tool, I mean Figma or XD or any other prototyping tool you use. Empathy, you don't use any kind of tool there, right? You don't use prototyping tool there. Define, no, we don't use any kind of tool there. In Define, we definitely use some whiteboards, right, to create the journey map, or we create empathy mapping using whiteboards or some kind of other tool, not prototyping tool, by the way, right? In ideate state, we don't use it, right? While doing crazy 8 or while doing brainstorming session, we don't use prototyping tools, specifically Figma or XD. Yes, here it comes in. While in prototyping stage, it comes. It is where you will use the tool. And in the testing also, you will use for the usability testing. So it's very clear that it is not the tool which you have to be very focused on. It is the process which you have to understand. Okay, myth number 4. A lot of people say this. Design is only about aesthetics. Design is more than aesthetics. I have talked about this earlier also. Aesthetics is the UI part, right? UX is bigger picture. So design is what is the UX, and UI is just the aesthetic part of it. As I said, there are other part of it also. It's not only about aesthetics. There's a very beautiful quote by Steve Jobs on this. Steve Jobs said, like, design is not only about, how it looks or feel. Design is also about how it works. That's very important, right? How it works also is design. It's not just putting lipstick on the pig, right? It's about more than that. Number 5, you need a design degree to become a designer. No, I never had a design degree. Right? So I'm talking about design degree professionally, the degree which you do in colleges and also. From my perspective, if you can perform well in the process which I'm going to show you now, which is design thinking, you don't need a design degree, right? If you can do empathy properly, if you can define your problem statement, if you can ideate on your problem statements, if you can prototype, and if you can test those prototypes properly, right? You don't require a design degree. However, please mind here, okay? There's one very crucial point here. Empathy is a very big thing. So under empathy, we do user research. I'll give an example of this, why you need mentor or institute, right? So under empathy, we do user research, yes. And under user research, there's one very famous methodology we use called user interview. It is not everybody's cup of tea, sorry. You need to understand how to take interviews. You need to precisely understand how you can ask a question, how to not be biased about your questions, right? And you need to be judged by somebody by saying, okay, you are doing this right, or you are doing this wrong. You should not approach human like this, or you should not ask this kind of question. If you don't have a mentor or institute who can teach you how to effectively do interviews, right, user interviews, then you don't require a design degree. It is as simple as that. Do designer need a code? Designer need to code? No, not at all. But it will be helpful if you know how to code, right? No, however, understanding just the basic will improve your design decision. You have designed a beautiful website, for example, right? Beautiful website. It looks amazing. A lot of things in that. And you went to your developer and say, hey, let's create this website. And your developer said, no, this cannot be coded. What will happen? All your efforts gone wasted. So it is highly advisable to all the designers to learn the basic of how programming languages or code work, not to just code. Do not code, but try to understand the concept of it. I'll give you a glimpse of it, right? You see this on the right hand side is what the form you have defined. You have created this form beautifully using Figma or XD. How this is get converted into XD? How does your developer convert this into into a real live website? Okay, a form, sign up page, however you want to call it. You see there is a code here, right? I'll just glimpse of it. This is the default tag. This is the default tag, right? Head tag and HTML. This is where the body, where all these things comes into, right? And you can see this forms. This is here. This single line input type text placeholder. This entire box and text is this part, and this password is this part, and this button is this part. And if you see this paragraph, this last one is this. At least this understandings will make your design better. This is just a very basic part of it. You can go above this also. You can understand how other things work also. You don't require to be a programmer. What you need is just the understanding of this thing. That's it. No more than that. Okay, yeah, awesome. I've placed this transition here to remind me that I busted all the design myth. Now that we have busted all the myth, let's try to understand what exactly design is, right? So design, heck yeah, what is exactly design? So Design Council, it's a UK-based design council. What they say is design is a mindset and a skill set. It's a combination of both mindset and skill set, right? Design is critical thinking and creativity combined, right? It's thinking critically and then creatively. And then number 3, it says it is much more than aesthetics, which I've already explained. It is much more than aesthetics, right? Okay, they have given this framework, which is pretty awesome. If you call yourself designer, please buy heart this. 3H. We have head at the top, we have heart, and then we have hand. Okay, head is our problem solving capabilities. The ability to visualize and conceptualize the intangible, those things which you cannot touch. The ability to visualize that, right? Thinking about it. That's the capacity. That's one power of a designer. And then second is human center. You're keeping all your decision inside, considering the human inside of it. There's a specific term for this called human centric design, right? Following that. And then the practical skills, the technical abilities to enable the end goal to be reached. This 3H is what design is and what, designer should do. Three things. Okay, so that was about design. Let's talk about what is a good design and a bad design. How do you identify it's a good design and it's a bad design? As I said, design is not only about aesthetics. Design is about how it works. Remember this, okay? So good designs are invisible and bad design are road blockers. If I say invisible, that means user doesn't really stop in your design process, in your process of doing something. They just They just don't see any blockers while doing some activity. For example, if I give an example of signing up, right? So it is invisible in terms of by saying user put up their phone number, right? And while putting up the phone number, the system automatically understand which country the user resides to and automatically fill up the ISD code, which is 91, right? He doesn't have to put that. And then he put out this number and then he pressed continue. And then the OTP comes in, he put in the OTP, simply he can just copy and paste it. And then he pressed continue. He was asked to put his name, he put his name and continue, boom, sign up is done. As simple as that. That is invisible. He will not realize at all that he is using an interface. But bad design is like this, okay? I'll give an example. So first I'll ask him what country he resides to. He will click on the drop down and 267 or 268, how many countries are there in this world, that get listed down, and the user will scroll to find the country he belongs to. Pathetic, right? And then he will put his number, and then he will say continue, and the OTP picture comes in. He goes to his message, copy it, and he wanted to paste it, but it doesn't work. What does the user do? User will say, I don't want to do it. Right? It's too much of effort for the user. First, that drop down. Second, OTP. That's bad design. Good design, thinking more than your interface. As I said, and now you'll say, because how come OTP services comes under design? It is an experience which you have to create. You have to understand human. If a human doesn't receive OTP within 5 seconds, they get pissed off. That's design. You have to go and understand your user, and that's how you have to design it. Right? So good design are invisible, bad design are roadblockers. Okay, good design solves problem. Bad design, you just create it out of your intuition. Here, there's a very precise thing here which I have to tell every one of you. Now you'll tell me, okay, redesign a drop down. How does it solve a problem of a user, right? For example, you have given a task, a boring task. You'll say, this is very boring. He has given me to redesign the drop down, right? And you will say, what is the problem here? I can just redesign it as per my understanding and needs. But think about it. Not only problem, but you have to also understand, how can I make someone's life better? How can I make someone's life better using this drop down? Just let's go back to the scrolling thing which I talked about, selecting the country. Why don't we create a drop down with a search box at the top so that user can type it India and select it as quickly as possible? That's way you are making someone's life better, right? You don't require to solve a problem, big problems. This is another problem which you can solve. So think from this perspective. Always ask one question to yourself: how am I making someone's life better? If I'm adding this feature functionality, if I'm adding this color, if this typeface or whatever you're doing it, think about it. How am I making someone's life better? That's the primary goal of UX designer. Good design keep the human and the environment in the center. Bad design doesn't consider the human and the environment. As I've shown you the meme earlier, the toy one, remember? There, if I have to design it properly, I would have understand that, okay, what this kid will require, and then I would have bought the toys for them, right? Bad design didn't understand the human, or they just didn't understand the user perspective and just brought it for them, for the kids. Good design is aesthetically pleasing. Bad design is boring and no fun. Aesthetically pleasing is very important. I'll talk about this more in coming slides, where you'll get a proper understanding is what I'm talking about aesthetically pleasing is. Pretty well. Okay, so we talked about design, we talked about what is good design and bad design. Now the most important topic, everybody must be looking at it and might be thinking, why Bikash hasn't come to the point yet, right? This is where the point is. What is UX design? Now what exactly is UX design, right? If somebody asks me what is UX design, then how should I define it? There's a beautiful definition for that. UX design is the process of creating evidence-based. So it's very important here. This line is very important. evidence based. It is evidence based. It is not institutional intuition based. Sorry, intuition based. Okay, it is evidence based. You have an evidence for that. Interaction design between human user and the product or website. So it is an evidence based process which will help design the interaction between the human and computer. Your mobile is also a computer, your website is also a computer. Okay, design decisions are driven by research. It is not by intuition. Okay, very carefully. Design decisions are driven by research, data analysis, and test result rather than aesthetics, preferences, and opinion. Not just the aesthetic pleasing will make your design better. It should be driven by research, data analysis, and test. This is what UX is. Okay, so it is the entire process of defining the experience. Every touch point has to be defined properly and has to be driven using research, data analysis, and test result. This will give you a proper understanding of what UX is. You see, this bigger goal is user experience, bigger round circle is your user experience design. And inside that, we have interaction design, we have sound design, we have HCI, we have content, which a lot of people forget. Text, video, sounds, everything comes under experience. If you have a website wherein you are posting videos for your users and the video is crappy, nobody's going to watch that video. That is again an experience, right? Information architecture, visual design, this is what UI is, right? Human factor, industrial design, architecture, sound design, everything's clubbed together is what user experience design is. Okay, this is beautiful. User experience design is look is how are you defining the color, typeface, and all the stuff. Feel, how are you making your user feel about your user interface, and is the user able to use it? That's usability. Combining these three is what user experience is. Super clear here. Okay, the most debatable things now. I'm picking up this here again. What is UI design now? You know, there are a lot of designers, right? Well, when I call designers, I am not differentiating between UX designer, UI designer, AI designer, or interaction designer, whoever. I call every one of them a designer. Okay, some designer have aspiration to only do user interface. Okay, only do visual designs, right? They love it. They love colors. They love typography. You know, they love the animations. That's their passion. You know, that's their ambition. That's their aspiration, right? So they're more focused into UI, but that doesn't mean that they are not doing research on everything. They have to do research. They have to understand what color to be used, right? What color will suit the user. So they have to go and research about the user to understand what the user like, right? So they do also research. So user interface definition is user interface design is a subset of UX design, which I've already explained, wherein the primary focus is on the look and feel of the design. Okay, so I'm saying here the primary focus. Okay, it is not the only focus. I say the primary focus is look and feel, but apart from that, they also do a lot of other stuffs. Okay, UI design is more than just look and feel. What are the most important components of UI design? These are the most important components of UI design: the colors, typography, images to be used, layouts, icons, animations, copy, and illustrations. These are the core elements of UI design, right? What color to use, what typeface to use, what images to use, layout, and all the stuff. Okay. So why there is a huge debate between UI versus UX, right? And I'm telling you, there is no such. UI remains the internal part or the subset of UX. Why UI is important is you have to understand this from one of the most famous psychologists, Don Norman, has given us this 3 level of design appeal. Okay, first level is visceral, behavioral, and then reflective. First, what you do is you see, right? You see its beauty, you see its aesthetic. Then you use it. You will use it there the usability comes in. And then the entire experience comes in, which is reflective. If you match all these three, that's the delight. That's when you delighted your user. So all starts with the visceral, where is the first glance of the UI, and it has to be beautiful. And then only user will go forward. So it's very important that your design, whatever outcome you're making, whatever design you're making, it has to be visually appealing. Okay, and how do you take care of those visual appealing things? Is by take care of this 8 components. If you take good care of all these components, or eight of this component, your UI will definitely look nice, beautiful, aesthetically pleasing. It doesn't require an artist to create beautiful UI, right? I forgot the name of who created the Mona Lisa. You don't require that creator to come and design your UI. Just basic principles of this, right? There are some principles which define what color to choose, what is psychological impact of colors. There are rules which defines what typeface to use, what images to use, what layout to use. There are enormous amount of information are there to use it. I feel this, everybody who jumps into UX industry, the first thing they ask me is, how can I improve my UI skills? And then I ask this counter question to them, what are your aspirations are, right? That is very important. So if your aspiration is to become a specialist UI designer, kick-ass UI designer, then you dive into each of this element, right? Go about, try to learn the history of it. I'll tell you the history of one of the color. How deep you have to go to understand the color. The color purple, it is now being identified as a royal color. Why this color is called a royal color? It's because earlier when this color was founded, right, when this color was created out of a lot of mixture, it is pretty expensive to create those color and to print those color. It is pretty expensive, and it was not being afforded by a lot of people, normal people, and only kings and queens, they used to they can afford it. So they created all their clothes, all their curtains and everything in purple color, and that's how it got related with royalty. And that's how still we perceive that purple color as royal color. That's how deep you have to go to understand each component of this. Typography also has history, right? Images, you should know the law of third, right? There are a lot of things which you have to understand. Icons, animation, copy, and all the stuff. So this is what UI is. Okay, we come to this now. Here, I want to bring to your notice is that I did a poll in LinkedIn to understand, as a UX designer, what is the most difficult part you are struggling with. I asked this question, and 50%, 54% of those UX designer have told us that it is research, and there are 24% who said UI, and then 20% design process. The most rated one is research, and hence I'm picking up this topic as well. So I'm going to talk about what is user research and how to effectively conduct a research. So what is user research? User research is a process of understanding user needs. Very important. Okay, it's a process of understanding user needs, goals, motivations, and behaviors. Some of the most used methods are user interview, contextual inquiry, surveys, usability test, and other form of feedback collection methodologies like NPS. We collect a lot of feedbacks in the application as well. So user research is basically to understand, there's a process which we do to understand user needs and goals. And then on behalf of that research, we create our design. I can go to an extent and say, without user research, it isn't UX at all. I can go to this extent. If you don't research, if you don't do your research properly, or you don't do at all, you don't do research, it is not UX. You're just creating out of your intuition. Now, what happened when we don't do a proper research and jump into design? Very interesting. Okay. Again, I'll come back to memes. Wow, look at the design. Beautiful, right? The kitty's ears are there, and 3 plates are there to, one of them can come and just eat precisely, right? Beautiful. So nicely created. But what does the actual user will do? Wow. They are not eating from their own plate. This is how users do, right? So it's very difficult to understand what user want, and hence we have to do user research, and we have to go and see them, eating food. If this guy would have done some research before creating those beautiful design, must have created a different design, right? And this is one of the most popular one, I think, right? It doesn't really fit in context with user research, but you get the idea. So what do you think about user is your out of your intuition is not correct. We assume that we understand human because we are human. We assume that we understand human because we are human, but that's not correct. 99% we are wrong about our behavior. I am also a psychology student, or I'm dropped out from psychology, but that's how it is. When I was reading books, when I was reading about psychology, I come to know about, oh my God, I didn't know about all the stuffs, right? So that's how it is. Cool. I'm gonna play this video, very interesting one. And a lot of people, when this park was designed, they made a lot of investment in these slides, so that the kids can use it, right? And they didn't do research. They didn't understand anything, and they just created this slide. So your business, for example, just think from this perspective. Your business is the number of people who slide here, number of kids who slides from this slides, from this one, you'll get paid for that. For example, your business is that. Now see what happens to your business. Look at this guy. So what it is very important that we should do user research. If you are business of earning money from people sliding there, you will be bankrupted. Okay, so what are the type of research method are there? So there are two basically broad perspective. One is qualitative methods, another is quantitative methods. Qualitative methods are methods wherein you do research, but your data or your input from the users cannot be quantified in numbers. Okay, and quantitative is where you can quantify with numbers, right? An example of qualitative is user interview, contextual inquiry, and quantitative methods are surveys and polls, right? Where you can quantify this percentage of people have voted for this percentage of people have said this in the survey, right? Wherein qualitative is people are saying, I'm happy, I'm frustrated. You cannot measure how frustrated they are. Frustrated, right? That's the quantitative. Okay, very important to understand research, and to understand research, we have to understand the process of research. How do we effectively conduct a research? That's the prime thing. First one is identification of problem. First, you have to identify there is a problem, right? Next is formulation of hypothesis. Next, what you do is you hypothesize. You understand. Okay, you say might be because of this there is a problem. Might be because of this there is a problem. Might be because of this there is a problem, right? So you list down 5, 6 hypotheses, or 7, 6 how number of hypotheses you have, right? You just brainstorm together with your team, and then you come up that okay, there are 5 or 6 hypotheses which we have understood that because of this there might be a problem. Third stage is to formulating a research plan. Now that you have the hypothesis in place, what you have to do is you have to plan your research. How are you going to validate this hypothesis? You have created this 5, 6 hypothesis. How are you going to validate it? Via user research, via contextual inquiry, survey, poll, or how are you going to do it? The entire plan has to be there. How are you going to recruit your candidates, or I can say people who are going to be interviewed, right? Or how are you going to where exactly you're going to conduct this, and how are you going to pay your interviews who are going to come for your research, right? So that everything has to be put together here. And then what you do, you conduct the research. You go and that you have decided this is the method we are going to use. This is how we're going to do. This is the place. This is the date. Everything is decided. And then you start calling your candidates, right? And then you do your research. And then once your research is done, then you collect a lot of data, right? And then you analyze those data and create interpretation out of it. You interpret what this data says. And then you draw a conclusion. Like you said, you're not specifically, because that's a sample size, right? You have taken a sample size of a user. You cannot do research for the entire of your user. You might be millions of users, right? You cannot do research on that. So what you do is you say that we have collected this sample of these people, 5-10 people, and then we understand that this is what we have got, right? So we believe that because of this is happening. This is the problem happening. That's the conclusion you're coming to. And then you create a report, and then you share it with entire your stakeholders, right? Again, this is not your call. If you're a researcher, it's not your call to implement those. You are going to submit that report to your product manager or to your stakeholders who are going to take it forward from there. Okay. The most important part of this is to find out the problem. They will say, because how can I find a problem? Because I don't know how to find a problem, right? It's pretty simple. If you look at this in a way I'm going to explain in next, you will understand how to find problems, and then how can you implement those things into your design. So the most important, the one best method to find out pain points or problem of user is to map their current journey. Okay, there are two ways here. If you have an existing product, it's pretty easy for you to map the experience or journey. But if your product has not been yet built and you are doing the initial research, then also you can create a journey map of the users. You have to find out how are they performing their goal right now, how are they achieving their goals without your product. I'll take an example of for example, you are creating a work management tool or task management tool, right? And your product is not built yet. So how do you create the journey map? So you have to go to your customer, you have to go to the users who are basically your audience, right? Who are going to be your audience. You just go there and you try to understand how are they performing the task management thing right now. They might be using spreadsheet, they might be using pen and paper, they might be using other tools, right? You try to map that experience. How are they exactly managing their task altogether? That's how you create the journey. I'll give you a sample of how do you create a journey. So on the left hand side, top to bottom, we have on the top, we have happy, we have sad, or frustrated, and then we have neutral, right? And then you map down all your processes from where the user goes through, like landed on the website, signing up the form, receiving OTP validation, successful sign up. And then you research, you go to the customer, try to understand how are they feeling, and then you mapped it into the roadmap, into the process, right? And you can see by this, people here are frustrated. This one landed on the website. People here are frustrated. So when you go deep dive and understand their pain point, there you find the problem. There you find, okay, because of this, they are frustrated. They landed on a website, they're frustrated. Why? Because might be website is not so up and, it's not informative, right? That's a problem. That's how you find a problem. Once you found the problem, you have to go back and start this process again, right? Identification problem is done. You understand there's some problem in the website, right? You go to your customer and try to find out what's the problem. And then once you find out the problem, then the process starts from there. That's how you do a research. That's how you effectively do a research. Awesome. With that, we have cleared what is UX, what is UI, and we have also talked about the research part of it. You guys are well equipped now. Okay. Now that you understand three aspects of it, so whenever you are designing, right? Whenever you sit down and working on this and you're designing something, what are the outcomes? What are the things you should always focus on? What are the things you should look for, when you're designing a design project? The first and foremost important thing is attention, right? Aesthetically pleasing. Your design should be aesthetically pleasing, right? If your design is not aesthetically pleasing, then it is difficult for the user to grab it is difficult for you to grab your user's attention, So first, it should be aesthetically pleasing. If you don't have, you know, I mean, you are not so good with UI, then you can always collaborate with a UI designer, right? Here, I want to make one point very clear, that it is always good for a UX designer to learn about UI and to do some UI things, right? To understand what UI is and to practice UI, right? Because if you see, startups are very small company, right? And they generally hire one or two designer, and they always want to look for unicorn designers who can manage both UX as well as entire UX as well as the UI part of it. So startups will look for this kind of unicorns. Whereas if you go for big companies, they might have different rules. They might have AI roles, AI information architecture designers. They might have interaction designers. They might have researchers separately, and they might have the UI designers separately. Okay, so whenever you are collaborating together, make sure that the outcome of your design is aesthetically pleasing. Number two, effective. Your outcome, your design should be able, using that, user should be able to achieve the goal. Whatever goal user is trying to achieve, they should be able to achieve it. If they are not able to achieve this goal, these are not, your design is not effective. Okay, it should be easy to use. It should be easy. It should follow user convention. I'll tell you one example of this. Once I was visiting a website of one of the candidate, and he had shared me his link, and I went there, and I was scrolling down, right? That's how the convention is. If a website is there, I should scroll down. But unfortunately, his website was scrolling left to right. And for that, I have to click on the right, and there is a affordance there, which I have to click, and then left to right happens. That's you're breaking the convention. That's not easy to use, right? Another easy to use example would be that you don't give full affordance as to what needs to be done next in the interface, right? You are not guiding user to do that next steps, right? That is difficult to use. So you make your system easy to use, so that, and then follow the user convention. Your design should be easy to learn and memorize. It's very important, right? It should be easy to learn, because your user will not do it once. He have to do it multiple times, right? So once he does it one time, you should be able to do it multiple times. That's why it should be easy to learn, and it should be easy to memorize. And then it should be prone to errors. Okay, humans definitely will make errors. Everyone makes errors. I also make errors, right? It is a designer's job to make the system prone to errors. How do we do it? We foresee any kind of things which user will be able to do. For example, they're on a payment page, right? And back is prohibited in a payment page, in the page where it routes to the third party payment application, and back is prohibited there. So whenever they click back, instead of going back or just canceling the payment, we can just give a prompt by saying, you cannot go back here. Do you want to cancel the payment process? That's how we become prone to error. Your system become prone to errors. Okay, wow, a lot of talks. Okay, the foremost thing, this is the last slide, and I promise after that we will open up for question and answers. I can see a lot of questions therein. We can definitely answer all those questions. Okay, so how do you get a job in UX as a fresher? If you're a fresher, how can you get a job in UX? Very important. Learn the art of storytelling, right? Everything you say, everything you are telling your interviewer, tell it in a story. If somebody asks you what is your process, right, you should start with the introduction. Then you explain, right? Sometimes you had a problem, and how did you solve that problem using this process you have. That's how you tell the story. If I ask you what is your process, you will say A, B. I'll say you will say the design thinking process. You'll say, okay, yeah, we'll do empathize, we'll define, we'll ideate, we'll prototype, and we'll do test. This is the process. But that doesn't make sense. He's not there to listen that 5 steps, right? is there to understand how do you really solve the problem using the process. So you have to tell a story. You say, okay, these are the 5 steps, and we have found this problem once, and then we have done this process. We have done empathy and this, and this, and then we have solved the problem. That's what the hiring manager want to listen from you. Okay, so learn the art of storytelling. Whenever somebody asks you a question, you try to answer that in a very storytelling way. Polish your portfolio as per your aspirations. This is very important. Now, aspiration can be like you want to become a UI designer, right? And your portfolio, when I go there, it's a lot of graphics things. That does make sense, right? If you're a UI designer, you're saying that I am an aspirant UI designer, your portfolio should speak about it, right? Polish it, you groom it every now and then. Another problem which I have seen is I see aspirants, they have their old portfolio projects still there in their portfolio. And I believe when they were started learning about your UX, they have created those projects, and they didn't remove it yet. Now, when they have grown up, they understand this looks crappy, right? I should scrap it. I'll just delete it. Go ahead and delete it. Don't keep it there. That's a negative impact, that you are not grooming your portfolio, right? So that's second important thing, that you should polish your portfolio. Third, very important thing, connect. Right? There are a lot of people in this world who are ready to share a lot of information about design, right? Connect. One important thing, LinkedIn is not Facebook. Okay, if you're in LinkedIn, it's one of the best resources to connect with your hiring managers, with your mentors, and a lot of people. A lot of learnings there. So connect. Don't think LinkedIn is a Facebook. The more you have a connection, the more chances that you will get a job. Believe me, I'm telling you this. There is a way to connect, okay? So be careful about connecting. So don't just say hi. So you send a connection request to your, don't just connect. You can also follow also. Now there's a follow thing also in LinkedIn. So whenever you are sending connection request to somebody, try to provide them a catchy message. Like, just tell them, okay, I love to be connected with you, and these are the things which I have done. I'm looking forward to get mentored with you, and your posts are really making my life easier. However you want to do it, right? Write it down, make them convinced. So once he saw your message, that will go in his brain, and he will realize your name. And then whenever he or she, your hiring manager, whoever you are targeting to get a job there, just continuously be interacting with them through LinkedIn, not just via messaging. And what I'm saying is, whenever they post, right, like those, comment on those. So as you are connecting, as you are doing all those stuff, that things trigger in the hiring manager's brain, and he will realize, oh, there's one guy who is always there in my post and everything. I should connect with him once. If the job is opening, then he will connect with you. That's the way to do it. Okay, so LinkedIn is gold. So the fifth most important thing is to learn design thinking. It's very important. I've given you the 5 process. I've shown you in a very linear way, but it's not very linear. It's a very iterative process. Learn it and try to apply them practically. Try to solve problem using design thinking. Okay, and show it in your portfolio in a very practical way. Okay, so show them. I've told you how to find out a problem, right? Go there, find a problem, right? And there's sometimes even aspiration told me this, that they don't know how to find a problem. They don't know what to solve. Now I've given you a lot of way to find a problem. Just go out and dig it out, and then solve it using design thinking, and then draft it properly into your portfolio. Okay, you don't require hundreds of projects. You just need 1 or 2 best projects. Just keep it there. That's it. It is as simple as that. Connect. Be with your connection, be with your hiring managers, be there, try to learn a lot of stuff every now and then. You're done. There is nothing better than that. And the most important thing, prepare for your interview. Don't take this as a granted. Okay, prepare for most commonly asked questions. and for design, as well as HR round is there. So prepare for those questions. You'll get a lot of questions in Google. Okay, just Google it. You'll find a lot of questions. Prepare for it. Prepare a story for it. So I said storytelling, right? Prepare those answers and start writing a story about it. And then whenever somebody asks you, you give that story to them. And you just prepare one story, prepare a couple of stories so that it can match with the criteria or scenarios, whatever the hiring manager asks you. This is as simple as this. All right, so that's the end of the webinar from my side. As you can see, I'm still showing you the my channels where I'm available. So you can always connect with me. All right, so let's open up this for Q&A.